Ford's biggest factory in the world shut down yesterday after 8,700 employees walked off the job.
Well, we've never seen it before. In 80 years, we've always been able to work through these differences.
Ford is in the midst of a colossal EV crisis, one that could reshape the very foundation of the auto industry. With over 92,000 unsold Ford electric cars gathering dust and a staggering $4.5 billion loss in just a year, the company is in deep trouble. The consumers have revolted, rejecting Ford's EV offerings en masse. However, in a surprising turn of events, CEO Jim Farley has decided to prioritize what people truly love: affordable cars with traditional combustion engines while simultaneously shutting down production of their flagship EVs. But why are customers rejecting EVs so vehemently? What caused Ford, once a pioneer in electric innovation, to make this abrupt shift? And how is this seismic shift affecting the industry giants, including Ford's arch-rival GM? Buckle up, because what you're about to discover is nothing short of revolutionary. Ford's F-150 Lightning was supposed to be the crown jewel of their electric vehicle, EV, lineup. But now, it seems like the Lightning is about to strike out. Ford has just announced a shocking decision to pull the plug on their electric truck, leaving many people stunned and confused. Why did Ford do this? What does this mean for the future of EVs? And how bad is the situation for Ford and its workers? You're going to find out as we delve deeper into revealing the truth behind Ford's EV crisis. Ford has always been known for making affordable and reliable cars, especially their popular pickup trucks. But in recent years, Ford has tried to reinvent itself as a luxury car maker, focusing on high-end models and EVs. This was a risky move, as it alienated many of their loyal customers who were looking for cheaper and more practical options. And it seems like the gamble has backfired spectacularly. Ford is facing a huge financial loss due to their EV division. According to some estimates, Ford could lose up to $4.5 billion this year alone, after losing $2.1 billion last year. That's a staggering amount of money, even for a giant like Ford. The main reason for this loss is low demand. Simply put, people are not buying Ford's EVs, especially the F-150 Lightning. But as you'll find out, that's not the only reason. The F-150 Lightning was supposed to be Ford's flagship EV, a powerful and sleek electric truck that could compete with rivals like Tesla and Rivian. But the reality is far from the hype. The F-150 Lightning has been a flop in the market, with sales dropping by a whopping 46% in the third quarter of 2023. Ford has tried to boost demand for its EVs by slashing prices and offering incentives. For example, the 2023 F-150 Lightning model has been discounted by up to $115,000, thanks to federal tax credits and other rebates. But even with these huge discounts, the F-150 Lightning is still not selling well. It seems like the Lightning has lost its spark, and no amount of money can revive it. But why is Ford's EV division in such a mess? What went wrong with their strategy? According to Garrett Nelson, an analyst with CFRA, there is a big disconnect between what Ford and other manufacturers are trying to sell and what consumers actually want to buy. EVs are simply not practical or appealing right now, given the current state of the charging infrastructure and the range anxiety that many drivers face. And even if you want to buy an EV, you have to pay a premium price for it, which makes it hard to justify the purchase. This is not only bad news for Ford, but also for their workers who are involved in making EVs. Ford has announced that it will cut thousands of jobs and lay off hundreds of workers who were building the F-150 Lightning. This is a devastating blow for these workers and their families, who were hoping for a stable and secure future with Ford. But now, they have to face the harsh reality of losing their jobs and income. Ford is trying to put a positive spin on their EV situation, claiming that they are still in high demand and that they are not worried about the unsold inventory. Darren Palmer, the vice president of Ford's EV division, said that it was too early to panic about the EV market and that they were confident in their products and customers. But these statements seem like wishful thinking rather than facts. The numbers don't lie. Ford's EV sales are down and their losses are up. And unless something changes soon, Ford's EV division could be doomed. Meanwhile, Ford is not the only one facing trouble in the EV market. The whole industry is going through a rough patch, as demand for electric vehicles is falling short of expectations. This year, about 92,000 unsold EVs are sitting on dealer lots across the country, collecting dust and losing value. One of the biggest competitors of Ford, General Motors, has also suffered a major setback in its EV ambitions. What went wrong for GM, and how does it affect Ford and the rest of the industry? We'll explore that in more detail later in this video. But first, let's focus on Ford and try to understand why its EV division is in such a mess. There are three main reasons for this. The first reason is the high cost of investing in EVs. Switching from internal combustion engines, IC, to electric vehicles, EVs, is not an easy task. It requires a lot of research, development, manufacturing infrastructure, and training to make the transition successful. Ford has shown its commitment to this by announcing a plan to build a $3.5 billion battery factory in Michigan, which will create thousands of jobs and boost the local economy. However, this also means that Ford has to spend a lot of money up front, without any guarantee of return. Unlike Tesla, which has moved some of its production to cheaper places like China, Ford is an American manufacturer that has to pay high wages to its workers. And while Ford does benefit from some tax incentives from the government for making EVs, these are not enough to offset the high costs involved. The second reason is the poor pricing strategy of Ford. In an attempt to capture a large market share and to keep up with its competitors, Ford decided to lower the price of its electric F-150 Lightning pickup truck. The price reduction was attributed to cheaper raw battery materials, which Ford claimed would make its EVs more affordable and attractive to customers. However, this move backfired, as it resulted in short-term financial losses for Ford and also damaged its brand image. Moreover, Ford dealers are also hurting their profits by marking up their vehicles and not selling them. And we're not talking about small markups here. Some dealers are charging $5,000 to $8,000 extra on every EV sold. This makes Ford's EVs even more expensive and less appealing to potential buyers. The third reason is the lack of demand for EVs in general. While Ford has been trying to establish a strong foothold in the EV market, it has also realized that there is still a huge demand for gas-powered vehicles. Many customers are not ready or willing to switch to EVs yet, due to various reasons such as the lack of charging infrastructure, the range anxiety, and the preference for traditional cars. Ford CEO Jim Farley recently acknowledged this reality and discussed the ongoing debate between electric and gas cars. He said that Ford was not abandoning its IC vehicles, but rather diversifying its portfolio to cater to different customer needs. He also announced a collaboration with Almiral Energy Storage, which will provide lithium hydroxide for batteries, with the aim to support the production of 3 million EVs between 2026 and 2030. However, this does not mean that Ford is neglecting its traditional IC vehicles. In fact, Ford has a separate division called Ford Blue, which is dedicated to making internal combustion engines and hybrid models. Ford Blue President Kumar Gutra revealed that they have big plans to grow their business and increase their production by 160,000 vehicles within the next 10 months. Ford is not alone in its strategy of balancing between EVs and IC vehicles. GM, one of Ford's biggest rivals, has also reaffirmed its commitment to IC vehicles, even as they ramp up their EV investments. In its Q3 earnings call, GM announced that it was giving up on its goal of producing 400,000 EVs by mid-2024, citing supply chain issues and market uncertainties. This is a huge blow for GM, which had invested billions of dollars in its EV division and had launched several new models to challenge Ford and Tesla. Now, GM has reaffirmed its commitment to internal combustion engine, IC vehicles, even as it ramps up its EV investments. GM CEO Mary Barra has announced an investment of over $2 billion this year in new full-size trucks, SUVs, and a new generation of V8 engines. These vehicles are popular and profitable in the US market, especially for larger vehicles. GM has also made structural changes, distinguishing between GM Blue for IC and hybrid models and Model E for EVs exclusively. GM CEO Mary Barra noted the continued importance of combustion engines in the U.S. market, especially for larger vehicles. She said that while EVs are the future, there is a current market reality that supports the continued production and development of gas and diesel vehicles, emphasizing that they remain profitable, particularly for trucks and SUVs. However, not everyone agrees with Ford and GM's approach. Some people are calling for a ban on IC vehicles and a rapid transition to EVs. This is a subject of significant debate in the automotive industry among policymakers and the general public. Some argue that banning internal combustion IC vehicles is necessary to combat climate change and reduce pollution. Others argue that banning IC vehicles is unrealistic and impractical, given the current state of the EV market and technology. Ford's top executives are among those who oppose the ban on IC vehicles. They argue that IC engines are far from being dead, and that there are many different propulsion systems between pure IC and pure EV. Ford USA's VP said, "Propulsion isn't going to be as binary as folks thought." He said that it was shocking how many different propulsion systems there are, such as hybrids, plug-in hybrids, mild hybrids, fuel cells, etc. Ford is number 3 in hybrid sales behind Toyota and Honda, indicating that there is still significant market demand for hybrid vehicles. Ford has also reduced the number of variants in vehicle production, as demonstrated by Ford's decision to reduce the F-150's variants. This can streamline manufacturing, improve quality, and reduce cycle time and cost. Banning IC engines could counteract these efficiency gains if it pushes companies to produce a wide array of EV variations without proper supply chain adjustments. By banning IC engines, companies might also face new, unforeseen supply chain challenges as they try to source EV-specific components. This is because most of these components come from China, which has a dominant position in the global EV supply chain. Relying on China for EV components could pose a risk for companies in terms of quality, cost, availability, and security. Jim Farley is not alone in this concern. Jeep's CEO also recently warned the industry of serious social problems if ICs were to get banned by 2035, calling the IC ban outright stupid. His main concern is the lack of affordability of EVs, which might exclude the middle class from vehicle ownership. He said that EVs are still too expensive for most people, and that banning IC vehicles would create a huge gap between the rich and the poor. BMW and Mercedes CEOs also call the IC ban a big mistake, and are currently working on some radically new technologies like hydrogen and ammonia fuel cells, which will help them reduce prices and potentially offer more choice to consumers. Toyota seems to have foreseen the fact that going all electric isn't feasible anytime soon, and they have reasons to back up their claim. Toyota, one of the world's leading automakers, has envisioned a more realistic and flexible way of achieving carbon neutrality that involves various types of vehicles, such as hybrids, hydrogen and gas options, as well as electric vehicles, EVs. The former president and chief executive officer of Toyota, Aiko Toyoda, championed this approach until last year. He argued that a sudden and complete shift to EVs was not feasible or desirable at the moment, and that EVs would not be the best solution for all situations and purposes, even in the long term. He acknowledged that different contexts and conditions would demand different energy sources and technologies, and that the development of critical infrastructure, such as charging stations, would differ across countries, regions, and communities. However, his strategy was opposed by some of the company's shareholders, especially those who were obsessed with environmental issues. They criticized him for being behind in the company's development of EVs and forced him to resign from his position last year. Nevertheless, Mr. Toyoda's successor, Koji Sato, has vowed to stick to the multi-option strategy, and Mr. Toyoda has been re-elected to the board by the majority of shareholders. It will be fascinating to see how the activists will respond to the glut of EVs in the market through their prejudiced lens. The reality of nearly 100,000 cars lying unused in parking lots under the summer heat does not align with their utopian vision very well. Moreover, if EV makers cannot address the issues of high costs and low accessibility of charging facilities, They may face the risk of industry consolidation and stagnation, which may hinder their innovation and growth. That, in turn, may dissuade the potential customers even more, possibly resulting in a situation where even if automakers produce them, buyers may not be attracted. On the contrary, Ford has suddenly stopped its EV production, including the halt of its best-selling F-150 Lightning. This has caused a huge commotion in the automotive world. Ford's bold gamble into the electric world is seemingly backfiring. As the automotive world navigates this electric storm, one thing is certain: Ford's decision will have a lasting impact on the industry. Will they emerge as pioneers of a new era, or is this a desperate attempt to save a sinking ship? The answers lie in the comments below. Share your thoughts. Friends, thanks for watching. For exciting and informative revelations, subscribe to our channel. Also, click on the next video that pops on your screen. It's mind-blowing.